Welcome to the Farming Without the Bank podcast, the show with a no BS approach to money, hosted by a farm strategy expert and authorized IBC practitioner. Join us as we get real and expose the flaws of traditional financial institutions in order to help farmers take control of their finances, create peace of mind, grow their wealth, and leave a legacy. Now, here's your host, Mary Jo Irmen.
Hello, and welcome to today's podcast of Farming Without the Bank. Thank you again for joining me. I appreciate that. Today, we have a special treat. I am so excited. Jolene Brown is here to talk with us and visit with us a little bit. And if you don't know Jolene, I'm not sure what rock you're hiding under. But Jolene is a professional speaker, author, and family business consultant. And I am going to add a farmer and a farmer's wife. Jolene speaks all over the country, helping anyone in ag to better manage their operation from communication to finances. She is the author of the books, Holy Crap, I Married a Farmer, and Sometimes You Need More Than a 2x4. So thank you, Jolene, for joining me today.
Well, I am just tickled to be here and crawl out of your rocks. I'm around.
Yeah, I know. I always think it's so funny when I'm like, well, you know Jolene Brown. And they're like, no. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know Jolene Brown? How do you...
and I get, do you remember me? And I tell them, I think I met you in a hot tub in a sleazy hotel. We have to have some fun on the road, don't we?
Yes. It's so funny. So I knew you well before you knew me. But just so our listeners know, a little bit of our history was that Jolene happened to be coming to Bismarck and on the same flight as me. And so I gave her a ride to her speaking destination. And it was so funny because during that, if you've been to Bismarck, it's not very big. So it takes you 15 minutes to get from one side of town to the other. So in our 15-minute ride, we got to visit about farming and it was so funny how our views really mesh and what we do on both sides of the consulting that you do and the strategy stuff that I do, that we really mesh and we really have the same views and are trying to save our farms the same way. So it's been super fun getting to know Jolene. And
we're both after we want successful businesses and happy families.
Yes.
And that means they got to do a heck of a lot of work when the times are good. So we've got some tools and processes in place when the times get tough.
Mm-hmm. And Jolene does a lot of, correct me if I'm wrong, Jolene, I've seen you speak, but you do a lot of speaking on just family relationships and really how to run that business and make business decisions, correct?
Well, the first thing is you have to have a business worthy of transitioning. And so that is my role, to get them ready so that we can have the attorney and the accountant and the financial experts make sure that we get the legal work done and that we have the money in place to do that work. So I specialize in making sure we honor the families by doing the business right. And that does get into succession and transition planning, because if you don't have the family business right, why even transition? Or is there going to be enough business to even transition?
Correct. And I love it. Because so many people don't treat it like a business.
Oh, heavens no. Matter of fact, you and I know that at least 90% or more of everybody operates their business from the basis of family. Let's not rock the boat. We don't want to get dad mad. Gosh, I think there's the will. We'll just all get along. Oh, we just all love each other. And they're basing their future business on hope, assumption, habit, and tradition. And sometimes that works. I call that lucky. But what you and I are after is to make sure we operate as a business, because that's how you love and honor your family. Our goal is to help them sit together happily at a holiday table. And they will do this as a business and increase their productivity, profitability, peace of mind. And that happens when we operate as a business. That's how we honor the family.
Yes. And know your numbers and make those hard decisions. I've had a couple of farmers now who have walked away from the family operation. And it's not an easy thing to do, but they've done it because that transition's not put into place and mom and dad aren't willing to do that. And so I don't know if you're seeing it as much as I'm seeing it, but the younger generation wants that stability and they want to know what's happening. So the older generation is having to do something or they're losing them.
That's so true, Mary Jo. The challenge is that we have to have a lot of communication along the way. And I'm just like all the farmers and ranchers out there. The more I have to communicate with family members, the more I like cows. Because if I don't like that old biddy, I'm going to send her to market. I can't do that with mom and dad and sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles. And so, yes, not only do we have some people walking away, we also have people needing that we better have some off-farm income here. Or we better realize that we better take a look at all of our numbers, of which you are so good at, Mary Jo, to make sure that we are getting the value for what it is we're paying for. Mm-hmm. And this includes an understanding of all aspects of the business, including the people, that we get the most value for our farm assets. And sometimes we forget that people are our number one asset.
Yeah, right? I mean, we think they should just do what we did, and we don't maybe want to understand how they feel or how they operate or what job they love the most. We think that we're just going to put them in the job that we want them in.
Should is such a bad word. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. That's right? Making an assumption and often uncommunicated until you get hollered at. I don't know how many times I've been told by the young generation, Jolene, I can't do anything right, but I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. And that's because we have not operated as leaders, managers, making sure that they know what their job is. First of all, that there's a good job for them and that they have the qualifications to meet that before they're invited back. Mm-hmm. And then we get into the aspect of what is the value that they're going to bring the business and what is the cost. And what does dad cost the business? What's grandma cost the business? Mm-hmm. We need to have, with your numbers, a lot of transparency, a lot of accuracy, and a lot of timeliness. And I detest bookkeepers who keep the books. In other words, they're not doing their job of sharing the information throughout the year so that good decisions can be made and the business can be financially strong, more productive, more profitable, and therefore give them some peace of mind.
But we also have to make sure that the bookkeeper who wants to share it, the other family members want to hear it.
If not, then you've got the wrong people in the business.
Right.
In other words, if you are transitioning management, so I know a lot of farm businesses that have transitioned technology to the next generation. You're in charge of the GPS, you're in charge of the auto steer, you're in charge of getting all this precision ag to work. They do that, but they have no idea that the cost that comes with that. So if you have somebody who has responsibility without authority or information, you have set them and the business up for failure.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I have some farmers that I just worked with, the whole family, and we did, I don't know if you're familiar with the Colby score at all, but the whole family took the Colby score, and then I went over with them what that means. And what we found out is that dad wants to just get things done, and he doesn't take a lot of time to maybe think things through or to investigate something, and the son does. So the son was having a hard time because he wanted to know what was going to happen tomorrow, and dad just doesn't, that's not how he is. He just kind of flies by the seat of his pants. He sees something needs to be done, he gets it done, he doesn't make a plan. The child needed a plan. And then, of course, mom and the daughter were all involved in it. And so it really helped them understand how everybody works. And that's so important. And you see that too when you go into these families, that one person, somebody might be in the wrong role. And we're holding them back by not allowing them to be where they're going to excel.
And what's so frustrating, Mary Jo, is sometimes there's an extremely simple solution to something they have blown up so big and has made divisiveness in the family. So, for example, in the case that you just cited, and I see that a lot, where we have different personalities. And so what is the compromise? The compromise is, let's have a morning huddle. What are you going to do today? What do you need me to do? Where's the equipment going to be? We'll talk again tomorrow. And then you better have that monthly gathering of which that you're talking about the bigger picture and where we bring in some of the money things. And then, of course, the annual meeting. I can get these farmers, especially moms and dads, who want things done now. And part of the reason, Mary Jo, is because they've done it for years.
Yep.
And so they're doers. And they've ridden the roller coaster. And so trust me, I know what needs to be done now. Just do it. And that's quite often their philosophy. And then we have those who graduated from college, maybe worked for somebody else, had a chance to be invested into the process. And all of a sudden now they're back down to labor just being told. And yet we've told them, oh, you're in charge of technology or you're in charge of agronomy. So what we have to do here is to find some type of compromise that honors the different personalities. And you and I know just having insight that we're different isn't enough. It's making sure that we carry out in our behaviors or a process or a tool that helps us work better together. Because you will not change people's personalities, but you can get them to buy into a process.
And you can understand their personality so that you can work together with it.
Oh, yeah, and I could hate it because it's not mine. What's wrong with it? When I do consult, I bring a mirror, a box of tissues, a roll of duct tape, and a 2x4. and the mirror is because you have to start with where you are at today and the people who are there. And you have just said by the clients that you've just worked with, they looked into the mirror, the same mirror, but they all had different reflections. So then our goal is to help them find some tools or compromise or process that will help them use their strengths, because doing is a strength, thinking through is a strength. How do we utilize those strengths, get the work done, and make sure we're honoring the people along the way?
That's awesome. I absolutely love that, because I think, and I think this, I don't know this for sure. You've been in the industry far longer than I have, but in the business world outside of farming, as business owners, we look at the personalities of our employees. We try to put them where they're going to excel. We are constantly developing us, and we're constantly developing our business. And in the farm world, it seems like we don't want to look at us. We don't want any kind of business or self-development, because that's really bad and that's poo-poo, and that's, who does that? We're farmers. We're strong. We have this armor. We don't need to have any self-development. And I think that when you step back and you look at that and you want that self-development, it's going to help you recognize everybody around you and how better you can serve them and serve each other.
You hit it on the head. We are so good at production and agriculture. Weeds, seeds, breeds, feeds, money, machinery, and marketing, but we're crappy with people. What we have to realize, it's the people that do all that production. Now, that doesn't mean you give equal time to production and to people, because we got to get a crop in, we got to get the cows worked, we got to do our book work, get things to market, keep the machinery up. That all takes time. But I'm asking, when are you going to do your most important asset, which is the people that do all that business? And if we can get this down to a realistic time frame so that those who are established in doing production will give some hour to people, then we can make the good things happen. And I really find that in the wintertime, when we have less options of what we're going to be doing in production, that is the time to really sit down and get the people outlined, so that we're in the peak of time, that we understand, no, we're not meeting today. We have stuff to do, but we are going to talk this morning about what field are you going to be on. And I don't know about you, but our field here in Iowa, our farm, is all contoured. And I swear my husband can hide behind the hills with a combine. And I'm supposed to find him. And he thinks the radio is there for his use, not mine. So when we're doing, by golly, we're doing. And I will tell you that during peak times in farming, I'm convinced that people have a personality change. Nothing is more important. And so it doesn't do any good to be asking about other types of growth and training and job descriptions and code of conduct and dealing with conflict when it's peak production. Now, here's the problem. Some of us get on that hamster wheel and we run round and round and round and round, and we never stop to pause to applaud all we've done, or pause to take a look at the people who allowed us to do the work. And so you and I have a job. We've got to make sure that we get those pauses in there and that they take a look at the people doing the production.
Yep. And be grateful. Take 5 minutes every day and be grateful for your family and grateful for what was done that day.
Expressed appreciation is the lowest cost, highest return in any family business. And we're all about saving money. We're all about making a return on investment. Well, I'm telling you, and you know this too, that when you express gratitude, it makes a world of difference. And so I'm wondering, how long has it been since those of us in the senior generation have said, gosh, we couldn't do this without you. I don't have any idea how you make this work. I'm so glad that you're back here farming with us. I've learned a lot, but you know a lot more than I know. So go ahead and do it because you're doing it well. Mm-hmm. Or how long has it been said, Mom and Dad or aunt or uncle or cousins, without you, I couldn't farm. And it's always been my goal to be on the land. Thank you for the privilege and the opportunity. I'm still a student. I have a lot to learn. You guys have been here a lot longer than I am. So please help me be a good student. Teach me what I need to do differently and let me know if I'm doing something okay. Now, but you see, those are words. People will think that. And it's like when, I told you I love you once, and if it changes, I'll let you know. I invited you back to the farm. You're doing just fine. But I just wrote an article this morning for Successful Farming magazine. I write for Can the Problem Be Solved? And it had to do with the young farmer and the real intent that he wanted to know. No matter what his question was, it came down to, Dad, are you proud of me? Dad, are you glad I came back to farm? Dad, am I adding any value? Dad, I sense that you are resentful that I went to college. Was it the money involved? Was it my time away? Those are the questions that were all behind getting a job description and a performance review. But what I wrote he really wanted to know were those things. And bottom line is, Mom and Dad, do you love me?
And Mom and Dad have to be comfortable with saying that. And I actually asked one of my clients, I said, you are so different than your father. And you tell your kids that you appreciate them. You tell them that they've done a good job. You acknowledge them. And it was so 100% opposite from you. What made that shift for you? And he said, it was because I didn't like the way I grew up. I swore I wouldn't be like that. And I'm more like my grandfather who was like that. And he said, it's uncomfortable the first couple times you say it, but after that, it rolls off your tongue and it's easier to say it. So when you need to say those things, it's going to be uncomfortable. The kids might look at you like, are you dying and you didn't tell us? Because why are you just saying this now? But it needs to be said. And once you say it, or after 2 or 3 times, it's okay. And the kids might actually come back and say, Dad, I appreciate you for this too, or vice versa, however that conversation goes.
Well, you're going to love this. I've said to my husband numerous times, I need you to tell me that you love me. Now, if you happen to thought of that on your own, it would have been a lot better.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. I always tell my husband, he'll say something like, he'll give me some compliment because maybe I hinted to it or something. And I go, yeah, good answer.
Okay, so here's the bottom line. We also have to understand that love and acceptance is expressed in different ways. So for example, because I'm on the road a lot, I know how my husband loves me because the car's ready to go. He's checked the tires, he's checked the oil, he's looked things over, and that is his way of telling me I love you. I need to hear the words as well. Now, what does he need from me? What I find he really needs from me is respect and appreciation for the farm and the work that he does. That's what builds his soul. Now, do I tell him I love him? Yes, sometimes under great duress during planting or harvest. Last harvest was awful. And I finally said to him, because I had to leave the next day for a speech, I said, I got to go get me some applause because I sure as heck haven't had any here. So, we're very real in what we need. And the problem is, it's interesting. Our spouse does not have to meet all of our needs. I married my husband thinking he would. Stupid woman. And so this is why I have friends like you. I will never turn to another man for what I need because I've got my guy. But there are other things that he is not able to do. It's not in his personality. He's not going to change. And so how do I still get what I need? And what I find in a family business is there's so many dynamics. But watch out if you're the mom that you think you have to be the peacemaker, that everybody dumps on you and then you're the one not sleeping at night. Put it back on the people who can solve the problem. And I had a wonderful call from a woman in Michigan who said, every time the manure spreader comes out, my ulcer kicks in. My husband's not going to load it right. My son's not going to spread it out right. And they both come in the kitchen and dump the crap on me. She didn't say crap, but I cleaned it up. And I said to her, did you cause that problem? She said, no. I said, are you going to load the spreader? No. Are you going to haul the manure? No. I said, do you want to get rid of your ulcer? She said, yes. I said, okay, here's what you do. The minute your husband walks into the kitchen and starts dumping on you, I want you to stand up, look him in the eye, and make a stop sign with your hands. In other words, your palm is facing out, but not in his face. You're going to do this up by your shoulder. And this is what you'll say. Stop. You got a problem with John. You need to go and talk to him, and turn around and walk away. Here comes John. Stop. You've got a problem with your dad. You need to go and talk to him. You may never change the words. You must always walk away, and you must always say stop. She said, the first time I did that, I went into my bathroom and I closed the door. My husband followed me and he's shouting in the crack, and that's not all he did wrong. You should have heard this and this. And she said, I'm just inside cracking up. She said, it only took about a week and a half till they quit dumping on me because they knew I was not there to solve their problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's awesome. Okay, I actually do have a couple specific questions and a lot of stuff that I run into, and I'd love to just have your take on it and share that with our listeners.
Sure.
One of those questions, and I get this a lot, especially with what I do, because it is so different than what the normal financing is. And one of the family members will buy my book, they'll read my book, and they'll be like, this is amazing. But my other half, or my partner, or my brother, or my uncle, or whoever else I'm farming with, that we're a partnership, they do not agree with it, or they don't agree with cover crops, or they don't agree with rotational grazing, or they don't agree with whatever. I'm constantly having to justify myself, or they're just not buying in, holding me back. What can we do for that communication maybe to be better? Like, what do you have to say to that, I guess?
Well, underneath that, you got to find out why they're saying no. Is it money? Is it we have to learn something new? Is it going to take you away from doing what I want you to do? Is that I believe we're doing good enough? You know, in other words, the value of your idea has to be more important to them than their value for keeping you not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of second guessing, but you got to ask. So here's the deal, Dad and brother and sister, who's ever in the business. I really think that cover crops is the way to go. I've got a lot of documentation behind it, but I think you've heard a lot of it too. I do think it will benefit our farm by this much money. This is what it would cost. This is what it would take. And this is the time of which it would need to be done. We get all that. You know, you've heard all that already at the programs you've been to. So what are your reasons for not wanting cover crops? And it might be, well, we never know what the weather's going to do, and therefore it won't get started, and we wasted our money flying on that seed. Or it might be, what if we have a late spring and and it grows up too high and we have to kill it all down, pay more for chemicals? You've got to find out what is behind their no.
And this is what I've come. I don't mean to interrupt you, Jolene, but these are the two reasons I've heard the most is the neighbors aren't doing it. What are they going to think? And B, I didn't do the research, so I'm just automatically saying, no, that's not going to work because nobody else is doing it.
And what are you asking from me?
So those are the, like, what do we say? Sorry. What do we say when they come back and say, well, the neighbors aren't doing it, or what are the neighbors going to think?
Well, the thing here is we need to talk about our farm and our money, and we need to talk about being good stewards of the land. This is why I think cover crops would benefit that. But if you would rather have erosion or blankety blank, 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 we can continue to do that too. It's worked okay for us. We've not lost a lot of soil, but I think it'd be better if we didn't lose any soil. I think it'd be better if we needed less nitrogen in the spring. I think, go back to the value of what it brings. And if you have somebody basing on what do the neighbors think, then they will always base their decisions on not making any change. And you may be, banging your head against a brick wall here because you may not have the authority to make the decision. And so you need to be asking them, so who's in our family business? Who's really in charge of the agronomy, or who's really in charge of whatever this value is going to bring? And whoever that person is, and it might be the one who's done the research, thank you for saying that. Because with that responsibility, I feel a real need to make sure that we're operating in this manner. Help me understand your reasons other than the neighbors, because, neighbors are just a fence line away. We're still going to neighbor with them. It also gives them something fun to talk about, because all of a sudden now the cornfield in the winter has a cover over it, or it's green in the spring. It'll give them something to talk about. And you can have maybe some levity with it, but at the same time, if they've given somebody the responsibility to make sure we keep the soils where they're at, the nutrients are increased, and this is what you feel is the best option, then I know in my area, I could name 5 farmers doing it right now. I could name 5 farmers not doing it. I said, so everybody gets to choose, Mom and Dad. I think it's in our benefit to choose yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I really like that because it's something that I hear a lot on all aspects, not just the financial side of what I'm doing, but I'm the one researching it and the partner is not researching it, but they will not listen to my idea. Yet the majority of my ideas are the ones that have got us where we're at because I'm the one researching it and the other one might be complacent or what have you and telling me it's not going to work.
But did they have compliance that they should do the research, and was it just for show? Before you take on the responsibility, doing all the research, finding all the value, putting it in writing, making sure it fits into job descriptions and the business plan, before you do all of that, you make sure this is something that they really want you to proceed with. Or you want to say, did you just want to keep me busy studying something and we're not going to do anything with what I learned?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when I have families, and I use a responsibility chart, a managing people chart. Who's responsible? Who's going to do the work? Who do you have to consult with before you do it? And who do you keep informed? That's the part that goes into a managing people chart. And I will have a senior generation say to someone, you're now in charge of this. You do better than I do. I don't want to have to deal with that. I can't climb up and down the combine anymore. You're in charge of making sure the harvest gets in. And then here comes harvest. And all of a sudden the senior generation is, well, you didn't do this. And you say, okay, Dad, did you want the R back? Because if you want it, you can have it. Mm-hmm. But obviously, I'm doing something not quite right. And you've been here around here longer than me. Help me understand what I should be doing instead. Mm-hmm. Or did you want the R back?
Right.
Say that again.
Yeah.
And heck no, they don't. They just want to grit you about it. They want to do the work, but they want to be acknowledged for perhaps an idea which might be helpful or needs to be considered or needs to be explained why you're not doing it.
Right. And most of these new ideas are coming from a generation that wants to improve. And so they're the ones that are taking over. We need to listen to their ideas. And if you don't like them, then do the research to justify why, telling them that, oh, that's not a good idea. Just they've done the research. We need to look at that and acknowledge their time and effort.
You know, you and I know, and this is where money comes in again, until that senior generation is financially secure away from the business. In other words, the business can't screw them out of what they need for long-term health care, the housing they deserve, the lifestyle they want because they've worked there a long time. They will micromanage the next generation to death because you are dinking with their future security. Mm-hmm. It is critical that we understand that money matters. And part of that money is the senior generation has to be financially secure first. If they're not secure away from the family business, in other words, we kept our Social Security low because by golly, we weren't going to have to pay into the government, so we took those salaries. And then we have no other assets. We invested everything back into the business to keep it growing and pay off the farm debt. Then all of a sudden we need something to live on. If they have not secured their finances, they must keep, in my opinion, some assets in their own name that can never be collateralized by the business. That way, if the business doesn't pay them, somebody else can pay them. So if they keep, for example, some land in their own name that is not in the big corporation, not in the big LLC, if the LLC cannot pay them the rent so they can have the lifestyle and living they expect and deserve, they can rent to somebody else because they own that asset.
Right.
We've got to do all we can to make sure that senior generation is financially secure. Then ideas don't put them at risk. Then change does not put them at risk. We're allowing the next generation to grow what they can afford on and to lose based on what they have. Yeah. And so, again, we've got to make sure we've got them financially secure first. That's a real key point.
Mm-hmm. And I have a whole bunch I could add to that, but we could go on for days and days and days. And you should just go to one of Jolene's seminars so that you get the full picture of it. But there is another question that I had for you, and that is, what do we do when the kids don't want to take over?
There's two parts to that question. That is, are they back working with you and they just don't want to take on management, leadership, and ownership? Or are they working with you and they want to own but not do anything else? Or are they not even wanting to be in the business? Now, I just worked with a family where I have one of the next generation, and it is the only biological child of this family, and they expect this person to take over. All that he wants to do is be labor. He wants to know he's done. He can go home to his kids' soccer games. He can go home. He knows he's not going to be paid as much as everybody else who's doing more. He only wants to be labor. And yet it is the expectation of mom and dad that this is the manager. This is the next leader. This is who's going to inherit the farm. And I said, really? Have you not listened to what he said? He does not want this. And so we have other options out there. Now, if they are working in the business and they don't want to do it, then that's just labor. Sometimes they just don't want to be in the business at all. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with honoring the goals of other people's journeys. It may not be yours, but it needs to be them. And by the time they're age about 27, I can tell whether it's the fire in somebody's belly to be in production ag. We've made it, and that number, of course, there's always exceptions to that. But since we've made it so easy for them, all the way through high school and then college, and then they come back and they get their paycheck and we keep the debt and they keep growing, then all of a sudden we don't know what's happening here. We allow our kids to be kids and not to be employees earning the right for management, leadership, and ownership. So by the time of age 27, if you've got somebody without the fire in their belly, let them do what they want to do. You're going to be much better off, because there is a world out here in agriculture of people who would do anything for the privilege to be in production ag, but they don't have a farm or ranch to come back to, mm-hmm. or the one that is there is not big enough for that to be included. And they are so eager to get started. They're so eager to earn the right. And then you've got the right people managing the operations of the business.
Do you see that? What do you see happening with those farms that nobody wants to take over? They don't want to participate in farming at all. Because I see so many young people that want to get into farming, and I would just love to have an older generation where they could mentor them or hand it off to them. Do you ever see that happening?
Yes. Two ways. I've seen young people who have first usually went to school, worked on their own, worked then in agriculture, whether it's for a local co-op or an implement dealer, or they're scouting and agronomy, or they're working with a veterinarian, that they're working in the business connected to what will benefit a farm or ranch down the road. And then I see that there are several organizations that, per state, by the way, that is trying to match up these people. And then knowing that we need to have the interview process, they have to be on probation. They need assurance of what the picture would look like if they not just meet the expectations, they exceed the expectations, and that we continue to grow on that. The second option is, I think there's a lot of veterans out there, well, I know there is, that really want to farm, mm-hmm. and they have served their country. Here's my biggest challenge with that, because they are superior people to manage and to lead and to do work. We don't have good leaders for them. And believe me, they had a good leader when they were in the military. So if you bring a veteran on board, you better be a good military. What's their job? You better coach them, praise them. You better correct them, promote them, or get them out of there, because that's what they're used to. Mm-hmm. And there are many personalities in farming that welcome those type of employees who will make really good leader managers, and they will honor your business. So there's options out there. We also have a lot of young people right now working in family businesses. That I have one in my neighborhood where each of the people in the family must own their own land, and then they will share equipment and share labor. And I know a young man who doesn't have enough land. And so he is someone like Keith or I, or someone else might consider that we do this type of a contract, knowing we could probably get a lot more money from someone else. But at the same time, instead, what we have is somebody who will honor the land, honor the history, honor the people who own it currently, be a heart of a student, and be grateful. So we actually have a list of names for our daughters. If we kick the bucket today, who she would cash rent to. They can't crop share. They don't know enough about it. But I said, they're not going to pay the highest price cash rent. I want you to first call this person and this person, and you're going to be called by a lot of people. Just ignore them. Mm-hmm. I want you to seek these people, because they will care for the land, mm-hmm. and they will care for you at the same time. They will keep you up to speed of what you have to do as a landowner. And if we both kick the bucket today, and we have in our will that after our youngest grandchild reaches age 27, if there is no interest in production agriculture, which is demonstrated by, and we have specific things down, and advisors that would help determine whether or not we have somebody worthy of being in production agriculture, then this is who you would sell to. And in this order. And we've actually had to change the names, of course, because things change as we go. This is why you update the will. And so, and then our daughters have heard this from us. My husband has said to them very clearly, if you allow somebody to rent this land who does not keep down tall water hemp and Palmer amaranth, I will come down from heaven and haunt you. And he will, because we don't have a single one of those on any of our acres right now. He's made darn sure of it now. Our neighbors are spreading it as it comes down the waterway, and the seeds will, of course, spread. But this is his intent. And because we are so very clear with the daughters that we want to keep this land in production agriculture, we don't want it into a housing development. We live fairly close to Interstate 80. We don't want it in any other produce. But what we want is to help young people be strong in agriculture. And here's how it would happen.
And I think that the biggest thing there, and you've said it over and over and over, is you've communicated this to your daughters. The challenge that I see is that farmers might be worried about what the kids are going to think if we bring somebody else in and teach them agriculture and let them excel with our land, because we leave our kids out of it. If you communicate with them, if you have your estate transition set up correctly, there shouldn't be a problem with that. And the person taking over and working with you is also going to want to know that. So it all comes down to planning and communication.
And making things legal, too. You know, a conversation is not a contract, and we both know if things are not in writing, things do not exist. One of the things that will help our farm and ranch families is that if we keep operations separate from the land. I want some operations is anything movable. Crops, critters, people, machinery, anything, grain, anything movable. Okay, that's operations. And then land, of course, is the stable. I want people running operations who know how to operate the business. So if you got kids not interested in farming, but they want income from the farm, then we have operations run by 100% those who know how to operate the business, but it's tied to the land. Operations has the first option to rent the land, appraised county average minus the discount, and it's due at a certain time, and it's this type of rate if we're going to have first option to buy as well. And the same thing that the land is tied to operations. So this requires, when I said we need a really good attorney who not just is there to write your will and the durable powers of attorney, but who understands structures, buy-sell agreements, does the what-if scenarios, and speaks plain English. And I need an accountant who's not just a tax person. I need this accountant to be your partner who will talk to you about the 5 key ratios of successful businesses to know whether or not you're strong enough to do this. I want somebody who's going to play the what if scenario. Make sure the bookkeeper has somebody sitting alongside them as they understand different areas of the business. So for example, if I'm the next generation and I'm in charge of crop protection, and this means I better be talking to the bookkeeper about what the bills are going to look like, who they're going to come from, is there enough money to cover this, can we prepay it? So this bookkeeper has an important role of a teacher, not just paying bills and depositing money. What we're talking about here is being real partners in a business. Everything is interrelated. And the minute you tell me, yes, we want our business to continue, and with whom, you are no longer independent, you are interdependent. If you don't want to do that, for heaven's sakes, be a sole proprietor. Tell everybody you're the puppeteer and they're your puppets. Dance well and you get paid. Now, here's the problem with that. The minute you say, yes, you want it to continue, then you cannot longer pull the strings without them knowing where they're supposed to dance.
And you have to start running it like a business, because it is a business.
Oh, did I hear that before? You betcha.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is, we're about 40 minutes in, and this is a long podcast for me. But, Jolene, we could go for days. It is so, so awesome to have you on, and I very much appreciate your time. And for all of you listeners out there, please, if Jolene is in a town near you, go see her. If she's not in a town near you, find out where she's going to be and fly there. Because this is such good information, and her presentations are so funny. and so good. It's not doom and gloom. They're very uplifting. They're very real. And there's no sugarcoating. I don't know if you are German, Jolene, but I always say I don't sugarcoat anything because I'm 100% German. But if you're not, are you German?
Ich kann Deutsch sprechen. Jawohl, I'm 100% German.
No wonder why you and I are so much alike.
But I'm surrounded by Norwegians.
So am I.
And my husband is Dutch, Irish, Englishman. I call him a mutt.
Oh my gosh, my husband is German, Norwegian. He's got a whole bunch of stuff too. I'm like, I married a mutt, and he always looks at me like, really? I'm like, well, I am 100% purebred, so like you messed up the whole plan.
That's
but
right.
Us Germans need those relaxed individuals.
Yeah, and do tell people that if they're not able to hear my presentations, to go to my website, which is just jolenebrown.com, JOLENE Brown.com. I also have a YouTube channel where they can see little videos of my family business topics. I blog this year for Granular, and it's granular.ag. And I have hundreds of videos on pinktractor.com. So we'll be glad to send them to the resources.
And Successful Farming.
Yes, I write for Successful Farming, and I've just done a series for RFD TV. They've got 4 episodes now. So, yeah. And then if you come to the Commodity Classic or any of your major events, I hope I'm on the program for you. Come up and say hi, and I will want to hear your story. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a story and deserves to be heard. And sometimes we just commiserate together. Sometimes we just laugh together. And most times we can find the next step to make it an even better business.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you again, Jolene. I very much appreciate you, and I appreciate your time. And like I said before, find her. She does not live under a rock. She is everywhere. And if you have not heard about her, I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast. And so you have a fantastic rest of the year, Jolene.
Thank you so much. It's good visiting with you.
Thanks for listening to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. We hope today's episode has inspired you to take control of your finances in new ways. Don't forget to check out our website, farmingwithoutthebank.com, and engage with us on our Facebook page, Farming Without the Bank. Join us next week as we smash more financial myths and empower you to accomplish your financial goals.
I got to ask, did you know I've been stirring applesauce while we're talking, and I'm baking sweet potatoes and beets? And because I just started the apples when Carolyn said, it's now. I said, no, it's not till noon. It's now.
Oh, that's funny. I did not know that.
I tried to be real careful with the lid.
That's okay. The tracks are recorded separately. Mm-hmm. So if I was talking and you were making noise, you wouldn't even know that because he would just eliminate you from that. Part of the...
Well, I was still stirring while I was talking too. Like right now, I'm getting the measuring cups.
You are very quiet. You are the master of multitasking.
Well, aren't we blessed to do what we do? And I'm so grateful for your friendship. I hope this is helpful for you.
It will be helpful for both of us. So thank you very much. I will let you get back to your applesauce.
All righty. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.